Welcome to another episode of the Rank 'em Podcast. I'm Garrett Searight. Thanks for joining us for this episode. You can download us wherever you listen to your podcasts. iHeartRadio, Spotify, iTunes. We're also on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube at Rank 'em Podcast. So however you can help us out, give us a 5-star review, like, share, subscribe. We would certainly appreciate it. Joined as always with my co-host, Don Garwood.
Do you want to play a game?
Don, as always, is a little too excited for our topic today. We are going to rank our top 5 favorite movie franchises. And joining us for the first time in person since the coronavirus shutdown has let us all be in the same room, although we are 6 feet apart, is my younger brother, Zachary.
How we doing?
And our good friend, Keiquan Blackmon.
What's up?
So we are all here together for our first Rank 'em Podcast. And like I said, we are going to rank our top 5 favorite movie franchises. And I guess, Don, what were the, qualifications, stipulations that met that, I don't even know.
So
that were our movie franchises.
What made a franchise was that it had to be at least a trilogy. There had to be 3 movies in the same franchise that made this a franchise. Garrett shooting me some side-eye like he forgot it?
No, I was staring at Zach, who was covering his microphone. That was, but I have a lazy eye.
So it looked like I'm getting just shot this side-eye while he's looking 170 degrees the other way.
Yeah, looking at a whole other person.
But
angrily looking at a whole other person.
It had to be a set trilogy.
So 3 or more.
Right.
Gotcha.
Other than that, it had to be like the same movie. So, just as an example, Avengers is not an Iron Man movie. Guardians of the Galaxy is not. The MCU is broken apart, essentially. Like, they're not all different things. So, like, it has to be, just a trilogy of one specific event. At minimum, a trilogy.
So, Land Before Time, there's 940 of those movies.
That's one franchise.
That is one franchise. All right. Also wanted to point out that for the first time joining us on the podcast is my dog, Dio.
Who's a good boy?
Who the only apparently good boy that he'll be is when he's sitting with Keiquan in his lap. So he is...
I'm the dog whisperer.
You are.
He's also a very tired puppy.
We've had to put him outside for every other podcast. But tonight, he's just hanging out right there in Keiquan's lap. So... let's go ahead and get started. We're going to rank our top 5 favorite movie franchises. I'm sure there is going to be some discussion because Don has already said that if your 5 aren't his 5, you're stupid.
I don't know what you're doing with your life if your 5 isn't my 5.
So with that said, Don, we'll let you start us off. What is on your number 5 spot?
Number 5 spot on mine, Lord of the Rings.
Not on my list at all.
I was going to say, now I feel like I messed up.
I added them as we started the podcast. I bumped someone down and added Lord of the Rings, and I feel real bad about the one that I had to bump down, but it had to be done.
Don't feel bad.
Now, are you counting The Hobbit in this, or are we just talking the strictly 3 Lord of the Rings movies?
In my head, the
Isn't The Hobbit called like Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit?
No,
it's called The Hobbit.
It is called The Hobbit.
It's a separate book series too, isn't it?
It's just one book. It is one book.
Right. Okay. So
it's 3 movies, but it's one book.
I think it would technically be its own franchise.
It would. I would agree with that.
I would say I would agree
kind
with
of in
that
the same way that the MCU separates.
Right.
So I've got the original Lord of the Rings trilogy on here as the top franchise. Or not the top franchise, the number 5 franchise on my list. It's super good, and I got into them very late. You
just like watching dudes walk around doing nothing?
That's what I thought it was. And
it's really good.
I let
so many friends
I let Clerks 2 kind of
I love
determine how
I made fun of a Lord of the Rings fan so hard he puked.
Determine how I saw the movies that I think I gave them a chance like after I was out of college, and I finally sat down and I was like, on a Sunday, I was like, I'm going to
8
watch
hours of movies.
And it wasn't bad. You know what it was is when the Hobbit movies came out, I was like, I better catch up on the Lord of the Rings, and we'll get into this. I mean, literally everybody can't be wrong. So I'm glad that I gave them a chance because they're They're really solid. They're really
enjoyable.
long. Yeah.
Great cinema.
I don't know. Have you seen them?
No.
Really?
Yeah.
You should.
You should give them a chance right after you watch.
I was going to say the
everything
problem
else
is,
you need to.
right. The problem is the time investment that is needed to watch.
You could do it in one day,
You just got to devote the whole day to it.
one quarantine day. Watch the extended cuts. It's worth it. And then you don't even have to watch The Hobbit unless you want to.
It's better if you don't.
They're enjoyable cinema. I don't know how I feel about the some changes, but like
Didn't need to be 3 movies. It's the shortest of those 4 books.
The first one was really good. I thought.
Yeah.
agreed.
I'll agree with
The
that.
second one was like they just went continuously downhill.
Yeah.
Agreed.
I mean, it just
Not the greatest sales pitch ever.
for the Hobbit.
For the
movies.
Hobbit.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
no,
I was like-
the Lord of the Rings, they just keep getting better.
So the first one, it's great, and then the rest suck. Like, well, why would I spend the rest of the day watching
The Lord of the Rings, I would go Return of the King, Fellowship, Twin Towers.
That's probably fair.
Twin Towers? Nope.
Two
It's
Towers.
Two Towers.
See, a lot of people go that route, but I'm going
Never
to actually
forget.
go. My favorite, it's probably Two Towers, which is the slowest of the 3.
That's the movie with the most walking in it.
Yeah. That one is they're walking.
I thoroughly enjoyed it.
just going nowhere.
Although,
So that's Don's number 5. Keiquan, what comes in the last spot on your list?
so number 5, I feel like mine might be higher on other people's lists, but it is not for me. It is the Harry Potter series.
Defend yourself.
So the reason I have to defend myself is because it is definitely top 5. However, there are 2 franchises that I'm pretty sure are, I'm like 80% sure none of you guys have on your list, and those I rank higher. That's my reasoning. However, I enjoy
So that's your reasoning for putting 4 above it is because we don't have 2 of them.
No, because 2 of them I like higher, and you probably don't have those.
You
on your
only
list.
like 2 of them higher?
No, I like 4 of them higher.
Okay.
However, two of the 4 you more than likely do not have. I don't have to defend myself. No, but in all seriousness, I think those are fantastic movies. Obviously, we grew up like with the cast watching the movies,
Right.
like from when they were little and we were little to the 7th final movie, or technically 8th. Sorry,
final
that's
movie.
right, because they
ruined the last book.
Which is my favorite movie, is the 8th movie. If I'm going to watch a Harry Potter movie, it is number 8.
actually
I
I
know what
could
your
actually-
favorite. Your favorite is Prince.
Half-Blood Prince.
Half-Blood Prince.
When
Prisoner of
I
Azkaban.
originally saw the Half-Blood Prince, I thought it was the worst movie that they had made, and because I had just read the book before that. After rewatching it time and time again, it's the best movie of those 8 movies.
See, I think it's good.
It's the best movie.
Goblet of Fire is my second favorite.
It's pretty high up there.
I mean, they're all really good.
They're all
I usually skim through Prisoner of Azkaban because
Yeah.
I'm watching the same movie for an hour and 15 minutes. Like I'm watching the same movie again for an hour at the end of it.
My thought is every movie that's a musical, it's always got one song you can just fast forward right through, and it's the same with the Harry Potter movies. Like there's 8 movies, one of them's not going to be great. I mean, so Prisoner of Azkaban, you kind of skip right through. We're going to talk about Harry Potter, I'm sure,
Several times.
so that is Keiquan's number 5. Zach, what about you?
I have Jurassic Park. I really
Chris Pratt saves the series.
That's Jurassic World.
Ooh, yeah.
It's all one. It's all. I would consider them all one
I was
franchise.
going to say, I was like, wait a second, because the Jurassic Park does not deserve, like Jurassic Park 2 and 3 are dog babies.
Okay, first of all, Jurassic Park 2 is good.
Lost World.
I was gonna say, Lost World's good. The third one,
right?
Into the long grass, and then they all get eaten by raptors.
I'm kind of looking at my list, and I am kind of picking up a theme that the last installments are kind of lackluster, but we're gonna get there.
Militarized, like the Velociraptor hybrid thingies aren't ideal.
Right. But like I said, I'm kind of noticing a theme here that the last ones kind of fizzle out, but the earlier entries I feel carry the franchise through. And Jurassic Park, I mean, the first movie is absolutely fantastic.
Perfect.
I mean, every time I see it on TV, I'm still like, okay, well, I know what I'm doing.
And I'm going to watch an edited version
I'm
of
going to watch an edited
Jurassic Park.
version of Jurassic Park.
You didn't say the magic word.
That's right.
The first GIF shown in movies was Newman.
Oh, yeah.
Wagging
That's
his
right, yeah.
finger.
That's true. So that's Zach's number 5. My number 5 to round out our bottom slot on our list. I got Pirates of the Caribbean at number 5. What?
Wow.
Have you because
The last
have
one
you
was
ever
garbage.
Yeah.
but have you ever actually watched The Curse of the Black Pearl
Yes.
in its entirety?
Yes.
Because when we were kids, Garrett could not watch that movie without falling
I'd fall asleep every time.
I did the same thing.
Every time I watched it.
The
Every
only time,
single time.
The
Like-
only time I ever tried to watch it was at your house. And we put it on, and I would fall asleep before they got done pillaging the first town.
Yeah. No,
Usually fell asleep before they found Will floating on a f***ing door.
Yeah. So that's why I laughed.
So yes, I've seen it. I grew to like the first 3 movies, and then not so much.
Yeah.
There, they just drug it out. Like, hey, this is going to make us $250 million. Let's make another one.
Eventually, they were just like, "Hey, Johnny Depp, can you put us on your back?"
And he's like,
he was like, "I am 60, wearing jewelry and sweatbands. I mean, I can, but
it's not going to be pretty.
And then he wasn't
This
even
is
the
not gonna-
oldest. They added what's his name as his dad,
Keith Richards.
Yeah, Keith Richards.
Keith Richards.
It's
he was in the second one though.
Very briefly.
the story. Like the first couple plots make sense, and then it just
The third and fourth one.
I liked the third one. I liked the fourth one. I was not a fan of the last one.
So I got Pirates of the Caribbean at number 5 on my slot. I don't know if anybody else is going to have those on their list. Probably not, but I really enjoyed them for a while there, and I looked forward to when the next Pirates of the Caribbean movie came out. So that is number 5 on my list. My number 4, it's just because I think so highly of the... I just think so highly of the top 3 in my list. I've got the Hunger Games at number 4 on my list. And the reason that it is not higher is because the last book is trash, which makes the last movie.
Last two movies.
Yeah, they did turn it into
the
two.
last 2 movies trash because it just was like she's just like, I just want to get this done. She rushes through the end of
The last book was written like a screenplay.
The last book was written as if I forget what the author.
Susan Collins.
That's right, Suzanne Collins was like.
Suzanne.
That's
I don't know why. It's just you pronouncing it like that.
I think her name is Suzanne
yeah, because
Collins.
Susan Collins is a congresswoman, I think.
Yeah.
Did you guys know that she's currently in the process of getting ready to release a 4th Hunger Games book?
I did not know that.
Yeah, I think it's supposed to be a prequel, actually.
Well, is it going to be Haymitch in the Hunger Games? Because that's actually an interesting story.
I would actually be interested in that. Actually.
I'll read it, but the third book, Suzanne Collins was just like, God, I got to write this. Somebody's going to pay me millions of dollars to write this. I got to finish it. And so she just pooped on a page, and there it was. Hey, great, we're done. And so those movies, the last 2 movies kind of suck because the third book sucks.
Right.
So I got number 4. Keiquan was raising his hand. I don't know if it was...
He was doing the tribute thing.
Oh, okay. I thought he was like, I have a question. Why are you stupid? So I'm okay.
I was
so I'm
pledging
glad
myself as tribute.
God, yeah, I was just like, apparently Keiquan has Hunger Games
He was
much
doing,
higher.
He was doing the District 6 Rue sign
Gotcha.
of salute thing.
Now I know.
District
Speaking
6? I don't know. It's been a while. It's been a minute I'm
I'm going to have to rewatch those movies. I did enjoy them.
going to guess District 9.
that when
I saw
Rue,
all of them in the movie theaters.
spoiler alert, when Rue bites it. Whew.
Tearjerker.
Oh, there's other tiers that we'll be talking about, at least on my list. So Hunger Games number 4 on my list. Don is shaking his head. He ain't got no tears.
No tears.
He's a grown-ass man. Keiquan, what about you? You're number 4.
All right. My number 4 is a series you guys probably don't have on your list. And that is the Hannibal Lecter series.
That's on my honorable mention, actually. I just added that when we started filming.
I do not have it on my list, no.
I thought about it, didn't put it on.
I honestly...
Red Dragon's garbage.
Red Dragon is... It's got some issues.
Yeah, but I love Red Sparrow.
It's
It's just Jennifer
the red-
Lawrence. It's just Jennifer Lawrence naked for 40 minutes. It's great.
I think I just Googled that part.
That's fair point.
It is
Is
not
it
the
the
same.
Sorry, Keiquan.
That is a standalone
Is the
movie,
red
guys.
dragon the red dragon with the girl tattoo?
No. Although that is actually a great series.
That was a
Book series.
Yeah.
And they also made movies out of it. They're originally like in Polish or something like that. But I digress. Anyways, though, I thoroughly enjoy the whole entire Hannibal Lecter series. Obviously, most people's favorite is going to be The Silence of the Lambs.
Yes.
Hello, Clarice. Like, honestly, Anthony Hopkins plays that character.
The census taker tried to pull me once. I had his liver with a nice Chianti and some fava beans.
It's a extremely quotable movie. I also have the books. The books are pretty solid as well.
I can smell your scent. That is not. That's the TV version.
Yeah.
I can smell your scent.
It was like some of the.
Look at the blood.
It was some of the creepiest movies I'd ever seen. Like I remember.
Does this include like Hannibal Rising in it?
Yeah. It includes all of those.
That movie's not good either, but
I honestly enjoyed.
So you're not selling this top 5 very well, Zach.
So-
I know it's not yours, but so this movie sucks and this movie sucks, but it's in top 4.
But Anthony Hopkins.
It was good in that one.
he was good in the first 2. He was good. He was the best part of Red Dragon, but
So
I was like Keiquan
I was
defend
going to say.
himself.
So I enjoyed Manhunter. It's fantastic. Silence of the Lambs is the most popular of the 5 movies essentially.
Yeah,
I didn't know there were additional movies.
Yeah. Then there's Hannibal. There's Red Dragon, and there's Hannibal Rising. I do enjoy the I guess the progress. My biggest thing I think that intrigued me is that he's a serial killer. That spoiler, I guess, if in case you didn't know, he's a serial killer, Hannibal Lecter. But he also eats his victims. But he is extremely brilliant.
right.
Not just brilliant as in his schemes and whatnot, but actually the point the FBI at one point actually used him as a what's the word I'm looking for? Consultant. Yeah.
I mean, they did that with real serial killers.
I know.
Serial killers have usually have a genius IQ. If you ever watch Manhunter and stuff like that on Netflix.
Or you could watch Manhunter, the Hannibal Lecter movie.
yeah, but that one doesn't have Anthony Hopkins in it. That one has Brian Cox.
I know.
As Hannibal Lecter, and it's very different.
It is very different, but it does tell it I think the way it frames setting up how we get into the Silence of the Lambs, I enjoyed it. So that's for me. I wanted to go a different route because it's very easy to go sci-fi route or fantasy. And I did want to include at least something of.
I'm sure we'll get to those two. So that's Keiquan's number 4. Zach.
I have the Iron Man franchise. Iron Man kind of started the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which we had said was not one cohesive unit, which I will fully agree on. When they announced they were making an Iron Man movie, it was when comic book movies were the first wave of comic book movies was ending, and they were all starting to kind of be just a joke.
They had just done Batman Begins, and it saw at least a little bit of success.
Right.
And then they had done, the Sam Raimi Spider-Man films had just wrapped up.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then so Iron Man came in, breathed new life into comic book movies, and boy, what a breath it was. And again, like I said, the first 2 are really good because the first one is kind of the only one that exists as its own standalone movie, and then the second one starts to build the MCU, and the third one is, okay, we've established a cinematic universe, and so because of the universe building, it makes my top 5.
Yeah, I mean, Iron Man was also, if you go back and watch it now, does not fit with a lot of the rest of the MCU because they gave Jon Favreau so much leeway to kind of do whatever he wanted to establish that character. I mean, Tony Stark is having one night stands and being very overtly suggestive, and he's an alcoholic and all of this stuff in the show. When you get to where we are now, where everything is super PG now, and you can't have really any irredeemable qualities in these superheroes. So it's kind of changed the way that whole
the whole way you look at it.
Yeah. The whole way that universe has changed from Iron Man to where it is now.
So that is Zach, number 4. That completes our round of 4. Don, you haven't given your 4?
I have not.
Okay, I thought I started with you. So
No,
I'm
you
Started with
you.
yourself.
No. as can be expected. I got to take care of number 1. Okay, Don, you're number 4.
Number 4 on mine includes the greatest Christmas movie of all time.
I know what this
Christ.
one
Are
is.
you
That is,
kidding
and
me?
that is the Die Hard franchise.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Not Home Alone.
No, I was like, is he going Santa
He
Claus
said
right now?
He said greatest Christmas
Right, I said
movie.
greatest Christmas movie of all time.
Well, then you're wrong because Die Hard's not a Christmas movie.
It is a Christmas
It
movie.
is
It is not a
Christmas
Christmas
It's not a
movie.
Christmas
Look,
It's a
movie.
Christmas
I don't
movie.
care that
It's
Bruce
not.
Willis said it isn't. It
Yeah,
is.
Bruce Willis says it's not. The director says it's not.
It is.
It takes place
100%.
at Christmas.
It
That
takes
does
place
not-
at Christmas, and if it doesn't take place at Christmas, the movie is fundamentally changed.
Yep.
Disagree.
I disagree.
I'm 100% whipped down on this.
So
That's a poll. That'll be a poll. Twitter
The,
poll coming up.
ooh, that's another one I'm going to win.
Yeah, because people are stupid.
That's
I
rude.
said it.
Wow.
There's at least 2 people here that agree. And there's 2 people here that are wrong.
Yeah, and the two that are stupid
Two
are
people-
brothers.
2 people who agree and 2 people who are wrong.
So, I mean, Die Hard 1, it's a classic and started Bruce Willis on his ascent to being the action superhero that he really was. Severus Snape, Alan Rickman. I did that just to get on Garrett's nerve.
He's got a name. His parents gave him a name when he was born.
Alan Rickman was the bad guy on that
R.I.P.
and was a phenomenal
Wasn't
bad
that
guy.
like his first like movie role?
Yeah, if not his first, it was his first at least like
Leading.
leading role or starring role, and he did an amazing job in it. It's extremely quotable. I bought.
Well, hell, even like Hans Gruber falls off Nakatomi Plaza is
Right.
just a great ass sentence. Like those are great words. To Hans Gruber, Nakatomi Plaza. Damn, that's good.
Right, Carl Winslow is in it.
As the cop, of course.
Right? Yeah, I can't
No,
do anything
I
else.
think that
Carl
I think that it's confirmed that Die Hard takes place in the Family Matters universe.
Oh,
so
there's
that
a
is
conspiracy.
actually Carl Weathers.
Carl Winslow.
The second Die Hard movie, not that good, takes place again in an airport. This time in New York. Blah blah blah. Skip. But Die Hard with a Vengeance
So good.
was so good with Samuel L. Jackson and Bruce Willis and Jeremy Irons was the bad guy in that movie, and you get to the fourth one, which was Live Free Die Hard, and it was set like in 2006, and
Yeah.
It's a great action movie.
Right. Like,
You
that's
know what?
a good
Like,
movie.
It's not bad. I like Live Free or
I'll
Die
say,
Hard.
I like Live Free Die Hard a
enjoyed it.
lot.
I was obsessed with that rollout keyboard that she had.
Oh, 100%.
yeah.
Definitely.
And then,
like, where do I find that?
right.
Like, one of my earliest Google searches, like, where do I find a rubber, like, roll at USB keyboard?
Right. And then the one after that, we're just not going to talk about because that was trash. And that had, and I'm not going to talk about who plays his son because the only way that I can figure out who plays his son is that he played Spartacus's best friend.
Jai Courtney, isn't it?
Yeah. It is Jai Courtney, you're right.
Okay.
But he played Spartacus's best friend in the Spartacus series on Stars.
Good to know. That's our number 4 lists here as we rank our favorite movie franchises on the Rank 'em podcast. I'm Garrett Searight, joined along with my normal co-host Don Garwood, and also this week we are joined by my younger brother Zach and our good friend Keiquan Blackmon. Speaking of Keiquan at number 3 on your list is question mark.
Number 3 for me has been mentioned already, and that is The Lord of the Rings. So, huge fan of Lord of the Rings myself. I watched that, like the double VHS tapes as a kid growing up so many times. I think probably the reason why, as I mentioned earlier, my favorite movie of the 3 is the second one is because we probably watched that one the most. But all 3 obviously stand the test of time. I also thoroughly enjoyed that movie or all 3 movies, because I used to pick on my sister, my younger sister. She'd be in her room playing with her Barbies or whatever, just minding her own business, and I would like sneak in there and do a little Smeagol little Smeagol interpretation, like,
They stole it from us. Our precious, nasty hobbits. Yes. Got him.
That's actually, of all the different things that we've had you do, impressions, singing, stuff like that, that's your best one.
That's pretty good.
So what was her reaction to
it would
that?
scare the crap out of her. You would hear like, Mom! And they'd be like, Keiquan, leave your sister alone.
What is the second one? Is that the one that starts off with Smeagol, like way back, like 500
Yes.
years ago, and he kills his boyfriend person and then
His
like
buddy.
becomes Gollum?
Yep.
So I just think they were friends.
Really? Because I was pretty sure that they were.
Think they were just friends.
I don't watch it again.
all I'm focused on is I kind of just want to plug your phone in and call your sister, and just have you talk to her like that.
She would immediately know it's
And
me.
and
Well, I mean, she probably has your number saved as
I was gonna say,
Keiquan.
I can't
Bobby.
think of his name. Who was Smeagol? Who did the
Andy Serkis.
Andy
Andy
Serkis
Serkis.
is ridiculous in anything
I only
that
know
is
the Ringling Brother Circus.
Andy Serkis.
He's
He's in Black Panther.
He's in Black
Star
Panther.
Wars.
If there's a stop, or
He's
if there's
Snoke in the new Star Wars movies, and he's also Caesar in the Planet of the Apes movies. He is like the person that they go out and get
For the motion
Hey, dress
capture.
up in this motion
Oh,
capture.
he
thing.
must be important if Don knows who he is, and not just the roles
I
he's
had
played.
I had to ask for his name.
But you confirmed quickly, so you know you had some semblance of his.
Andy Serkis deserves to be called by his real name.
Yes, he does.
So Lord of the Rings, number 3 on Keiquan's list. Zach,
Number 3 on my list is the Harry Potter franchise. It spanned 8 movies. I mean, it's just a good series. I mean, there's a whole lot going on. It's kind of hard to sum up 8 movies in just a couple of quick sentences.
Try
Snape.
one
give it a
sentence.
go.
Snape.
Give it a go.
Severus Snape.
Dumbledore. Ron.
Ron Weasley.
Just the actors they got for. I mean, the kids were great.
Marry me, Emma Watson. Marry
Right.
me.
Alan Rickman as Severus Snape is
believe that's-
perfect.
Alan Rickman.
Alan Rickman.
A as in Alan Rickman. L as in look. It's Alan Rickman.
But I mean, there is such a big world that J.K. Rowling wrote that translated pretty darn good to film, so much that it got its own spin-off franchise.
Yep.
So,
Fantastic Beasts.
I mean, I haven't seen any of the Fantastic Beasts
They're
movies.
pretty
That's
Ooh.
what I hear.
You should go to
You
the
don't
theme park.
you don't like them, Don?
The Fantastic Beast movies. I enjoyed the first one, and I was like, I can't wait to see where they go from here. And then they came out with the second one. I was like, I wish they didn't go here with it.
They're coming out with another one.
There's-
Yeah,
it's
and,
supposed to
and
be a
I'm gonna
trilogy.
watch it. I think it's supposed to be like 4 or 5.
Is it really?
Yeah.
wow.
And I want to like it, and I want them to be good. But I thought that the second one was a huge step down from the first one.
Okay.
I actually agree.
I thought it was pretty good.
I just didn't want Johnny
I also
Depp
watched it on
as
a plane.
Grindelwald.
And
what?
I watched it on a plane,
Okay.
and plane movies are a little different. Like they're edited a little more, and you're not 100% focused on them.
I saw John Wick 3 in an airplane. Great movie.
So Zach's got a Harry Potter. We're just pretend I didn't have
Deadpool 3 isn't out.
I said
John
John
Wick.
Wick
Oh.
3.
Try listening.
I watched Deadpool on an airplane, but I had already seen it a couple times.
So Zach's got Harry Potter at 3. Don, what about you?
Number 3 on mine, also Harry Potter. And I texted you last fall,
Yeah.
as I listened to the books on Audible. I decided to give them a try. I started reading in junior high when I think a lot of people my age did, and kind of got caught up to Order of the Phoenix. I think when I was in 8th grade, like that book had just released, so I read all the way up through like Goblet of Fire, and finished it, and it was like, okay, I'm ready for the next one. Oh, well, the library has it on a 6-month wait list if you would like to sign up for it. And I was like, well, I guess I'm done reading Harry Potter. Because I read like the first 3 or 4 books, whatever it was, I think 4, in like maybe like 5 weeks or something like that. Just when I was
Just
home, I
blazed through 'em.
was reading all those books, and got to the got to the point where I couldn't just read it immediately and then stopped and never went back. I watched the movies, and then this fall, as I listened to the books, I would text Garrett and be like, they didn't convey this in the movie at all. He's like, no, they didn't. And then like
only got so much time.
I'd finish Sorcerer's Stone, the book, or Philosopher's Stone, and then go
Philosopher's Stone,
and then watch the movie, and then finish the second one, watch the movie. The only thing I hated on Audible is how the dude pronunciated everybody's names.
Hermione Granger.
Worse than that, but yeah,
Hermione.
It was terrible to listen to his
It was
voice.
a rough listen.
But I liked the books, and it made me appreciate the movies a lot more. If you haven't read the books, I'd give it a try.
So that's number 3 on Don's list. Coming around to my number 3 as we rank our favorite movie franchises. I have got Toy Story at my number 3. There's some looks. One is like, I didn't think of that. The other is, did you not get enough oxygen at birth? I'm not sure what Keiquan's look is. See,
I know what movies you haven't seen, so I guess it makes sense that you're putting this here. So I will allow it.
I just, for me, I was surprised because if you've listened to previous podcasts, how much hate was directed towards Toy Story 4.
But the first 3 carry it, man.
see, Toy Story 4 sucks.
But that just tells me that, like, literally 1/4 of those movies suck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
That happens.
Possibly a half.
during
the second one wasn't that good.
when you talked about the Hannibal Lecter series, you're like, Red Dragon sucks, and this one isn't very good. But
I wouldn't say they
but
sucked. I enjoyed them.
Silence of the Lambs is good.
It's like,
Toy
I
Story
enjoyed it.
4, not great. Toy Story 3, and we talked about, tear jerkers. I mean, Toy Story 3, spoiler alert, when Andy just gives his toys to Bonnie. Man.
And she goes to reach for Woody, and he like pulls it back real quick, and it's like, oh.
Toy Story 1, 2, and 3 are really good. They carry the franchise. They could make a Toy Story 5, and it could be just Woody and Buzz just farting into the camera for an hour and a half, and Toy Story would still probably be in my top 5.
What about Bunny and Ducky in Toy Story 4? Key and Peele. Those guys were hilarious.
No, thank you.
Nah.
Don't like new toys?
But I got Toy Story 4. Or not Toy Story. I got Toy Story at number 3 in my list of best movie franchises.
That was a good curveball. Actually, I like it. I like it.
I think very highly of Toy Story, as we've talked about.
You've got a friend in me.
And the music is great. But that's another podcast that we're probably going to do is songs from
Disney movies?
A song from a movie. Movie songs.
I'm thinking of one right now, and I just wanted to start singing it.
Go for it,
it's
brother.
a very hard song to sing.
All right, Zach, what's number 2 on your list?
Number 2 on my list is Indiana Jones.
Ooh.
Now, like I said, there is a movie in this franchise that does not carry the weight that the first 3 carried. Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull is hot garbage. One of my favorite episodes.
Like it is.
One of my favorite episodes of South Park ever was right after that movie came out, and the boys run out of the movie theater just screaming, crying, and then like they all have PTSD from it because this movie's so bad. And finally, they're like, "We can't just go on pretending we did not watch our friend get raped." And like they all have like vivid flashbacks of George Lucas and Steven Spielberg literally raping Harrison Ford as Indiana Jones. But the first 3 are absolutely fantastic films. The Raiders of the Lost Ark was supposed to be just a standalone film. That was so great. They
the way God intended movies to be
Right.
made. And then they're like,
Right.
wait, we can make like $3 billion off this.
So, fun fact, Raiders of the Lost Ark is the reason PG-13 exists as a rating.
Interesting.
Because it was too graphic to be PG, but not graphic enough to be R. And so Spielberg and Lucas begged the MPAA to create a new category for movie ratings, and they created PG-13. And that just does not exist without Raiders of the Lost Ark. Temple of Doom, you literally watch a man get his heart ripped out of his chest while it's still beating.
Kalima.
That's right.
Kalima. You betray Shiva.
And then with The Last Crusade, which, has last in the title, so as far as I'm concerned, that's the last Indiana Jones movie. You had the introduction of Sean Connery as Henry Jones Sr. And just
Only the penitent man shall pass.
it's an excellent movie franchise.
Not a Shia LaBeouf fan?
Jehovah starts with an I.
I like Shia
Very
LaBeouf.
quotable
I really
movies.
do.
Done. Say with his own cover. Like, okay, Zach, you're done.
Just Indy's it's a classic, man. There's no two ways about that.
So Zach's number 2, Indiana Jones. Keiquan?
All right. My number 2 might be number 1 for multiple people, and that is Star Wars. Obviously, there's a lot to be said about the series. You could break it up into its own separate three
separate trilogies almost.
along with
You got
3
the
standalone
Yep.
movies. But as a whole, it's a fantastic trilogy. Obviously, the story of like Anakin Skywalker, who ends up becoming Darth Vader.
Spoiler alert.
I love there's a Simpsons cutaway of like, this is, they leave Star Wars, they leave the 9th film, or the 6th film, I guess, and Homer just goes, wow. Is it?
Yeah. When they reveal that
Well,
Darth Vader is Luke's father.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he just goes,
that's
wow, who would have ever guessed Darth Vader's Luke's father? It's just like people just lined on the sidewalks like, hey! And ruins the whole movie, for the whole franchise.
I legitimately had that happen as we were walking into Return of the Jedi. Somebody was like walking out, talking to his buddy about the movie, and I had to yell at him. It was like, bro, I haven't seen it yet. Can you shut the hell up?
Okay, Zach.
But then got caught talking about it on my walkout.
Keiquan, continue, sorry.
Oh no, you're good. But just the lore itself, like the world building, how they ended up expanding the franchise to like other forms of media. So like obviously you have books, you have video games. It's just fantastic. I kind of went down the rabbit hole probably like January of like pretty much rewatching all of them, and I'd seen them multiple times over the years,
Right.
but like rewatched them. Then I was just like, there's an Audible Star Wars books. I'm gonna check them out. And then now I've listened to like 4 or 5 Star Wars Audible books, and I don't know, it's just fantastic. Obviously, you got like the Clone Wars TV series. Like, there's plenty that could be said. We've all at this
Right.
point, if you watch movies, you've seen at least a single Star Wars. And if you're one of those people who's like, I've never seen Star Wars, I don't like you.
At this point, you're purposely trying to not watch Star Wars.
Yep.
Just
Right,
like Garrett's purposely trying to not watch anything in the MCU.
No, it's superheroes, just not my thing, which is hypocritical because my number 2 is Batman. Are we going, like, do the Dark Knight movies have to be...
The Dark Knight
Separated
movies
from-
are separate from like
Okay, so
Michael Keaton.
Okay,
and
so the
them.
Dark Knight trilogy
It's its own trilogy.
is my number 2. Like I was going to say.
That's
If-
solid.
If specifically I have to do the Dark Knight trilogy, then yes.
I mean, it still fits. Honestly, separating them from the movies in the 90s probably makes it better at number
Right.
2.
Right,
It absolutely
right,
does.
right. Absolutely.
It's Batman's like the only kind of superhero that I'm really about. It's just not my thing. Similar to Star Wars. Star Wars is not in my top 5. It's not in my honorable mention. It's just not something I'm a gigantic fan of. Like, I'm not going to say, Keiquan, if you like Star Wars, go stick your hand down the garbage disposal. it's just not my thing. Like, I like sports pretty much except for golf. Like, I'm not going to sit down and watch golf on a Sunday afternoon. I just don't like I don't like superhero stuff. But the Dark Knight trilogy is fantastic. Christian Bale, I think, is the best Batman.
Yeah, he is.
And I'm not sure that it's close.
It's not.
Those 3 movies are really great. The Joker in The Dark Knight is a phenomenal piece of acting. Bane in The Dark Knight Rises is phenomenal. Joseph Gordon-Levitt in The Dark Knight, he's the guy from Third Rock from the Sun, Don.
I thought he was the guy from Looper.
he is. No, it's Bruce Willis.
Oh, I thought that was. Are you
He's
talking
in
about
Looper.
the guy from?
He's in Looper, too.
Are you talking about the guy from Sean John?
Haven't seen it. I should.
That's a good one.
So I just think those three movies are some of the best movies that have been made in the last 15 years. So I got Batman number 2.
No, I mean,
the Dark Knight, right? The Dark Knight trilogy.
The Dark Knight trilogy as a series is really it was phenomenal. It had a great. All three of those movies are great,
Right?
And they're really. I mean, if I had to think of which one's the worst one, it's the first one,
Right.
And,
Yeah.
it's still really good.
It's very rare that like the movies even get like increasingly better.
right.
Right. Very rarely is the sequel or the
And I
third
don't
one.
particularly like Christian Bale as an actor, but he killed Batman.
Do you want me to crash your lights?
Is that American Psycho?
No,
That's what he said on Terminator.
somebody.
Genesis?
Somebody
No.
filmed
I
him.
skipped that one.
Terminator
Oh,
Salvation.
no.
Somebody.
Are you in my eye line?
Yeah,
How about if la-di-da-di-da?
I just crashed your bleeping lights. Like he just lost his mind one day, and somebody happened to be recording it, and it didn't go so well for him. So,
But it made more people go and watch Terminator, which is why they think that
probably
got released is
Right.
so that people would be like, oh, I'm going to go see this movie where he lost his freaking mind.
just like they killed Heath Ledger. So
It's
Don,
the
you're
complete
number.
opposite of like what happened to Mel Gibson, huh?
Yeah.
I think there's a little difference in between what happened between the two of them.
Christopher Nolan was like, "Sorry, Heath, need you to take one for the team. Your first one didn't do so hot. I need the second one to be big." And so Heath Ledger, team player.
I love that movie.
So Don, you're number 2.
Number 2 on my list is Star Wars. Yep, not number 1.
I don't know if you could hear my audible wow. I would have expected Star Wars at number 1, Don.
I've got Star Wars at 2 because of the last several movies that have come out have really kind of tainted the series for me. They're good in their own rights, and if they would have just told the same stories and not linked in the older characters, it would have been like solid standalone stories, but they
had to wrap everything up.
They just member buried everything.
Fact.
Hey, remember this? Remember this?
Remember Palpatine?
Oh, look, it's the Millennium Falcon.
Remember?
Ooh, remember Chewbacca?
Ooh, I remember.
Remember Palpatine?
Remember?
I haven't seen any of the last 3.
Don't.
Spoiler alert, they just bring back everybody who's still alive from the first 3.
Gotcha.
And then
yeah.
they
And some that
photoshopped
aren't.
the hell
And-
out of Carrie
and then
Fisher into
kill
the
them.
third one, even though she was dead.
So, I mean, but like Keiquan was saying, the world's super expansive. It now spans 11 movies, the original 3, the prequels, the newest 3, and 2 standalone movies. They're going to start on Disney Plus. They're going to have like an Obi-Wan series, and which honestly, I'm more excited for that than any of the movies at this point because Ewan McGregor is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Right.
And
In everything.
and
Mandalorian's
honestly,
real good, too.
Mandalorian's amazing.
It's
So
so
I mean, they're continually growing the franchise, and it's. I was going to say it's not doing anything but getting better, but it's
Well, see, and so you have it at number 2. You have Star Wars at number 2.
yes.
Keiquan, you also had Star Wars at number 2, right?
Yes.
You gave me crap for having Toy Story where 25% of the movies suck. Is it safe to say that the Phantom Menace and whatever the second installment of that trilogy
Attack of
was,
the Clones.
that they sucked?
Look,
I like clones.
I enjoyed Phantom Menace only because Duel of the Fates and Darth Maul, that
Phantom-
fight scene, you can't.
Phantom Menace is not a bad movie.
It's just Jar Jar
Phantom-
Binks.
Jar Jar Binks isn't even that bad in it. Everybody
He's not
blames
that
it.
good.
Everybody blames it on Jar Jar Binks. That's not the issue.
Star Wars folks I
biggest-
really know are like, okay, 1 and 2 suck. The last 3 have just been okay.
Here's
So Toy Story 4 is terrible, yes.
Here's
but,
the
so that, I
issue.
mean, that's still
the biggest
half
issue.
of the movies.
The biggest issue with the Phantom Menace is that everything that happens in that movie is in the title crawl for Attack of the Clones. So you can literally skip that movie,
Yeah.
and you're going to get exactly what happened in the first 30 seconds of Attack of the Clones as it scrolls past. Due to a galactic threat, the Queen Amidala has given this power to the blah, 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 blah. Oh, okay, thank you for saving 2.5 hours of my life. Nothing happened in that movie that wasn't covered in a 30-second title crawl.
except for a
Fight against Darth
badass-
Maul.
Except for a badass pod race.
This is pod racing.
This is
So, yeah, that's number 2 on mine.
All right, so Star Wars, Don and Keiquan, number 2 on their list. Before we reveal our number ones, honorable mentions. I've got Jurassic Park in my honorable mentions. I had not seen them for a really long time. The very first time I watched Jurassic Park, the original, was at Don's house at roughly 2:30 in the morning. But I think they're, at least the first one was really good. I think the Chris Pratt movies are pretty good. So
I wasn't allowed to watch the first Jurassic Park as a kid. I remember my cousins watching it on VHS during Christmas.
get yelled at.
And we got yelled at.
No
like,
Jurassic Park, no Power Rangers. No.
I mean, me and my brother watched Power Rangers, though, but for some reason Jurassic Park was off limits. Still to this day, I can't understand it.
Mom,
That's because
they're not.
Dinosaurs are fake. Get woke.
That'll be in the reaction show. So that's my honorable mention, guys.
My honorable mention list is actually pretty long, but I'm just going to zip through it here. Jurassic Park was mentioned. Indiana Jones was mentioned. Pirates of the Caribbean was mentioned. The one that isn't mentioned and is not going to be mentioned, and what I bumped down for Lord of the Rings, is I wanted it to be my favorite, but I just couldn't in my heart do it. And that's the Tremors franchise.
Oh, thank God you didn't.
I love the Tremors movie so
bad.
much. So
bad.
much.
It was like a year ago. He went like I was. Like,
I
last time
watched
visited,
all
you watched
6
all
of them
Like at least 3 of them in
in
a
like
little time
2
frame.
days. I watched all 6 of them in like 2 days, and they just released one.
Oh,
I think it
God.
was last year. I think
Seriously?
Straight
It's
to not even Netflix.
I was
Right,
right. Straight to sci-fi.
Oh no, that's not the one. But it's the newest one is on Antarctica. Tremors: A Cold Day in Hell.
Jesus.
You should have just did
But Bert
freaking
Sharknado.
Sharknado. Yeah.
and on it, we're talking about good movies here, boys. The first Tremors.
Are we?
The first Tremors was really good, and the first Tremors was really good. The second one.
Are you trying to convince me of that, or you?
I was looking for any kind of confirmation from
Not in
people,
this room.
and I wasn't getting any because you guys are a bunch of Neanderthals who don't understand art when it's right in front of your face.
Thank you for that. I'll just stop you there. I'll lay down before you hurt yourself.
Tremors 2 has ass blasters. No, Tremors 3 has ass blasters. Is what they call the little evolutions of them.
Zach?
My honorable mention, like Keiquan said, the Hannibal Lecter series. I don't count Hannibal Rising because it's just not, doesn't have Anthony. I don't count Hannibal Rising. I don't count Manhunter. If it doesn't have Anthony Hopkins, I'm not counting it. So there's only one bad movie, and it's Red Dragon, and it's just not as good as Silence of the Lambs and Hannibal is. And then I also have the Halloween movies.
Oh, you know what?
Because the original 6, I think.
That's the land before.
Right.
Now that's what I call Halloween.
Right. Like
97. Still haven't killed him.
Just, he is this unstoppable killing machine. And I suppose technically he's not in the third one, but Michael Myers isn't in the third one. John Carpenter wanted to make it like an anthology series, and then nobody saw Halloween 3, and he was like, okay, we're going to bring back Michael Myers for the 4th one. And just the 4th and 5th one does a little bit of world building, which you never knew you needed for a Michael Myers slasher film, but the story it builds is pretty nice, and it definitely is not a top 5, but it is definitely an honorable mention.
That's fair.
Keiquan, any honorable mentions from you?
So most of my honorable mentions were already mentioned with like Jurassic Park, obviously,
Right.
and Die Hard. I also wanted to throw in the Aliens trilogy.
All right.
Or not shoot. It's
more than 3, but go on.
It is. I'm also trying to think of the spin-off movies. They did 2 of them.
Well, you get AVP. Isn't
Alien vs. Predator doesn't count.
right? But there's
And there's Alien vs. Predator Requiem, and then they have the.
It's not like Elysium, but there's just like a random movie that like you see the alien at the very end of it.
It's like how those aliens came about.
Right.
Those 2 movies. Those are really like the lore
Prometheus.
behind those. Prometheus. Yeah.
I was like,
The lore behind it's fantastic. Like made me like rewatch the whole Aliens trilogy or all the Alien series, and that's what made me realize, oh, it's really, really, really good. And they also the like Alien Stompers or whatever the shoes were that Reebok did. They just re-released those. Big shoe guy here, so those just came out last week. I thought that was cool.
So those are our honorable mentions, guys. Before we do our number ones, be sure to run down your list. I'll go first. My number 5, I had Pirates of the Caribbean. I had The Hunger Games at 4, Toy Story at 3, The Dark Knight Trilogy at 2. And my number 1 is the Harry Potter series, which we've talked about at length. Growing up, Keiquan said it earlier that, we kind of grew up with those characters. I think the first movie came out when we were 11. Zach would have been like 9. And take you all the way to, 2012. So that's a pretty big chunk of your life there. The books and the movies taught lessons that I think kids should learn. I love the Stephen King quote of, the Harry Potter series teaches you about loyalty and friendship and honesty, and the Twilight series teaches you the importance of having a boyfriend.
That was the same quote I was going to use.
And that the Harry Potter series is just the books are great, the movies are great. Zach mentioned the actors that they got to play; they casted them perfectly. It seemed like in every edition that they came out with, that every time they introduced new characters, it was like that actor was the perfect person to play that character.
Like Luna Lovegood.
Yeah, I mean, everybody
to the team.
Every ancillary character was like, man, that was a great job. I know they're formulaic. I know they're repetitive. I know the same thing happens at the end of every one of them, except for movie number 8. But I think they're wonderful, and I got them at number 1. Don, your number 5 through 2.
My number
1?
5 is Lord of the Rings, Die Hard at 4, Harry Potter at 3, Star Wars at 2, and my number 1 movie franchise is The Avengers. So you've got the original Avengers, which came out in 2012, and it was the conglomeration of Iron Man, Captain America, Thor, and the Hulk. So they used the Hulk standalone movies and then used the setups that they did for the other main characters to form into this super team, and they defend New York. And at that point, it was huge because it had been building up to it for 4 years. It was like, we're finally going to see all of these guys in one movie. How are they going to be able to share screen time between all of these amazing characters that you can't wait to see? And then a couple years later, they come out with Age of Ultron, which at the time was kind of a letdown, but when you look back at it now, all that movie did was build you up to get to Avengers Infinity War. Mm-hmm. And when you watch like Infinity War, you're like, oh, this was set up by Age of Ultron. This was set up by Age of Ultron. And everything that movie wasn't great as a standalone movie, but when you look back at it now, you're like, holy crap, there was so much in that movie that now
important stuff that had to happen.
Yes, they used that movie to just kind of build Infinity War, and then eventually Avengers Endgame, which came out last year in 2019, and culminated in what was 20-some movies over 12 years that they had all of these like A-list, and a lot of them got like their A-list status from these movies. Right. Mm-hmm. I mean, Samuel L. Jackson now is the highest grossing movie actor of all time because he's been in almost every single one of these Avengers movies. Even the solos that spawned from it or that created these Avengers movies, that grossed $1 billion. So he's in it for 5 seconds. The movie grosses $1 billion, raises up the list. Right. Then he was in the Star Wars prequels, and then he's in like all these things. So he's just part of all these different universes.
Snakes on a plane.
Yeah.
Also that
he was in that. But
well, the Incredibles and Incredibles 2, and
right.
I mean, it's a big time movies.
And so,
but to that point too, I mean, Tony Stark resurrected Robert Downey Jr.'s
right.
career.
He really did. Robert Downey Jr. Like he does interviews where they're like, people will accidentally call him Tony Stark, and he's like, "Yeah, it's fine. I'm Tony Stark."
I appreciate it.
I couldn't think of anybody else as Tony Stark.
No, and at that time he was blackballed out of Hollywood for like 5 years because of like all this drug issues and alcoholism and stuff like that.
Well, I talked about a Simpsons cutaway earlier, but there's one where they go to Hollywood to film, to be in a movie or TV or whatever. I don't remember but they're driving past and like, wow, look at this, look at that. Like, and then they say, wow, there's Robert Downey Jr. filming a shootout with police. And Bart just goes, I don't see any cameras. but that's where Robert Downey Jr. was, in 1999.
Right. And
2001.
He's 8 years old and smells like Robert Downey Jr.
Right, from basketball. I mean, his life was in the gutter. And Tony Stark resurrects his life, his career.
They created this huge universe and conglomerated them in 4 massive movies that honestly are probably 4 of the top 10 grossing movies of all time.
Yeah.
So Don's got the Avengers at number 1. I had Star Wars. Keiquan, what about you?
All right. This one should not come as a surprise to anybody who listened to a previous podcast I was on. But my all-time favorite series is the Dark Knight series. Garrett mentioned it earlier, and I'm glad I wasn't the only one to add it. Huge Batman fan. The Dark Knight is my all-time favorite movie. Also, I feel like the Dark Knight, like the entire trilogy, hit upon a sweet spot for me as far as actors. Also, obviously, my favorite director was Christopher Nolan. My favorite cinematographer is Wally Pfister, and so he's been he's done several movies. Obviously, the entire trilogy with him, with Christopher Nolan, but he's also done just a ton of other stuff like Inception, Transcendence, even the Italian Job and Moneyball. So big fan of him, but also all the supporting characters in there. I love Michael Caine. I think he does a fantastic job as Alfred.
Yeah.
Obviously you got Heath Ledger. I think Gary Oldman's the perfect person for Commissioner Gordon.
Yeah.
Obviously you got Morgan
Freeman.
And they're I don't know, that whole entire franchise is everything that I wanted from a Batman film series. Knowing where we started, 80s, 90s, all the way up till now, it's unfortunately some of the Batman movie appearances afterwards or the movies themselves haven't been the greatest. Ben Affleck wasn't a terrible Batman, but again, he's no Christian Bale when it comes to owning that role, for me at least. I don't know, just I love it.
Michael Caine's did an interview where they were like, how do you decide what scripts you want to do? And he said, well, I sit in a nice comfortable chair and I read the script. I read the first page and I read the last page, and if my character's on both pages, then I do the effing movie. And that's how he decides what movies he's going to do. And I thought that
And he does a bunch for Christopher Nolan.
Right. So Christopher Nolan, regardless of the character, must put
Right.
must put the character he wants him to have on both of those pages. But if you think about Batman Begins and The Dark Knight Rises, I mean, he's in essentially the first scene and the very last scene of The Dark Knight Rises.
Yeah.
Speaking of Michael Caine quotes, and I know this is just prolonging the episode, but he is in Jaws: The Revenge.
Mm-hmm.
He is the seaplane pilot.
And it has a 2.7 rating on IMDb. So
Interesting.
It's horrible. And someone asked him about it. He said, I've never seen the film, but by all accounts, it was terrible. However, I have seen the house that it built, and it is terrific.
Like, Michael Caine does not care.
Oh, you're gonna pay me? All right.
I sit in my nice comfy chair, and I read the first and the last page, and if I'm on it, then I do the script.
If I'm in it, I do the script. So, Keiquan's got the Dark Knight trilogy. Great choice. This is number one. Zach, what about you?
So number 5, I had Jurassic Park. Number 4, I had Iron Man. Number 3, I had Harry Potter. Number 2, I had Indiana Jones. And number 1, I have Star Wars. That was pretty high on everybody else's list, and I didn't get told to text and drive this time, so I feel good.
If it lasts for 40 years, you're probably doing something right.
Right, and that's pretty much why I put it at number 1, is it does have staying power, because The Force Awakens was not a Star Wars movie. It was a Happy Days reunion special set in space. And they still got people... They got people to see 2 more movies that, frankly, I really liked The Last Jedi. I thought it had so much potential to tell a different Star Wars story. and everybody else hated it apparently.
I enjoyed it actually.
And so then they were like, okay, well, let's go back to what we were doing beforehand. And oh, look, Palpatine's back. Spoiler alert. And it did not end the way I wished it would have, but I suppose that makes me part of the problem.
I didn't hate
it. It just, after 40 years, 8 other movies, plus the spinoffs and the standalones and the books and all that stuff, like we're gonna pack 2 movies worth of information into the first 20 minutes of this movie to set up we kind of dropped the ball with the last one. So
you know what's the best Star Wars movie?
What?
I feel like Don knows which one I'm going to say.
Clone Wars.
Negative.
What are you gonna say?
Rogue One.
I'll agree with that.
Yeah, but it's not.
It is.
No. No.
That is a discussion for another day. We've already gone an hour. We're not going to argue for another 5 more minutes.
We'll do it on the after.
We'll do it on a reaction show.
You're inherently wrong.
We'll do it on a reaction show.
Wrong.
You can listen on Facebook, or you can listen on YouTube, as well as iTunes, Spotify, and the iHeartRadio app, or wherever it is you download your podcasts. So, Keiquan, Zach, thanks for joining us in person.
Thanks for having us.
Glad to have you, Don. Thanks again for your wonderful list. I know. I hope
Rogue One isn't the best Star Wars movie.
We will discuss that in the reaction show, which you can listen to right after you have listened to this wonderful piece of audio brilliance. Give us a 5-star review, like, share, however you can help us out. We certainly appreciate it. You can find us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, at Rankum Podcast. Thanks for making us a part of your day, however you did it, wherever you did it. Thanks. We'll catch you next time on the Rankum Podcast.